So I asked my wife if she had read the book Atlas Shrugged, and she said, no. Yeah. What will it take for you to stop talking about it? And I was like, that? Hey, Glue Troopers, hope everybody's doing well. I thought today we'd have a little fun retconning a couple of box arts. Now, for those unfamiliar with the phrase, retcon is short for retroactive continuity. And that's something they do in TV shows and stuff. It's a relatively new phrase when it's very popular with things like Star Trek and science fiction, where they'll have something in a later episode that completely disagrees with something from a first episode. So the writers or the fans come up with some sort of circular logic or excuse or something where it actually fits the canon, and they call it retconning. Well, there are a lot of box arts that have been criticized for many issues, and I understand. I mean, the box art is there to actually sell the model. No one really anticipated that, 10 years, 20, 30 years later, people would be picking apart the problems with it. So I thought I'd pick a few of them kind of quasi at random that had some flaws in them and just retcon them why, well, actually, maybe they're not flaws. And in no specific order, here we go with this monogram Dornier 17. Now, we see it here with the landing gear down, but the plane behind him still has the wheels up, but judging by the background, they're still a couple of 1,000 feet off the ground. And people are like, why is he still got the wheels down or so high up? Well, I'm going to say, well, if you look at the fuselage, you'll see there's bullet holes all down the side. I'm going to say he lost hydraulic pressure and the gear fell down on its own. Or perhaps they lost hydraulics and hand cranked it down because they didn't want to wait till they got to the airfield. They're probably having trouble keeping the thing in the air. So now that they're over friendly territory, they cranked the gear down, or it came down at its own up at altitude where it was safe, make sure it came down before they had time to get it to lock before they come into land. So that's my story on that one. The next one, which has been pointed out before, is here we have the KC-135 refueling the B-52, but it looks like it has afterburners going. And I'm going to retcon and say that actually what you have here was an attempt by the Air Force to put a fuel additive to make the engines glow, the exhaust glow, not actually afterburners, just an additive of the fuel that would give this bright glow to the engines to make it easier for the aircraft to find the tanker to begin with. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. This next one, another monogram. I actually had this kit a couple times as a kid, and I think that may be the first time I noticed, hey, this picture's upside down. Now, that's not what's wrong. That's just a perspective thing. Okay, it's kind of cool. But the Tiger Cat didn't see combat in World War II. It came out in World War II, but it didn't see combat until Korea. And didn't see a lot of combat there, but this has World War II markings. So for my money, this is either they didn't finish painting the stars and bars on it, or it did fly a secret mission in World War II. Take your pick. I know it's not much of a retcon, but yeah. Then we've got this monogram Sky Raider with apparently spring-loaded drop tanks or ordnance, because you notice that the ordnance that's being dropped is actually out in front of the airplane. Normally ordnance drops down and away rearward. But I'm going to say that this was a special program with gas-powered pistons to help guarantee that the ordnance came off. So it propelled it forward just a bit before it went backward. Yep, let's go with that. Then we have this one that's been a great Jack Linwood box art, but some people say, well, why would the B-17 be dropping bombs in a dive? And I'm like, nope, I'm going to say that's just perspective, because if you cant it over just a little bit, hey, now the airplane's level. So I think that the whole cram the box dramatic look thing is just a perspective. You might be looking at this airplane from the cockpit of a turning, banking, climbing escort fighter, or maybe even an enemy fighter. So let's go with that. Then we have this A-24, the Army version of the SBD Dauntless, that somehow, again, managed to, in this very shallow, almost level bomb drop, managed to get the bomb out ahead of it. So we're going to say that the crew chief mounted a really strong spring on the trapeze. Then, of course, we have the air races, and this is just a way to show the 4 airplanes that are in the box, but I'm going to say this isn't an air race. This is a pre-air race air show, and all the pilots are doing this practice maneuver for kicks and giggles. Then we have an actual SBD that thinks he's a torpedo plane pilot because apparently he's dropping his bomb 50 feet off the water, 800 yards away from the ship. He's actually dropping the bomb down low because he saw an enemy submarine. Yep, let's go with that. Then we have the Convair from Hawk that shows the other one going the other way. It's already cleaned up, wheels up. There's no way he'd get off the runway and be in that configuration that quick. And I'm going to say, oh, but this is like the Paris Air Show or something like that, where they're where Convair sent two of the aircraft out. One's doing an aerial routine while the other's on ground display. Yeah, let's go with that. Then we have the F-51D, and it says U.S. Air Force. This is clearly the Korean conflict, but the problem is the Koreans kept all of their aircraft usually up north of the Yalu. But we also know that the U.S. Air Force pilots would sneak up there and do illegal missions. So this is an illegal mission north of the Yalu. He's actually in China right there. We have the Cessna 02 that's got both of its marking rockets flying out of the tubes at the same time. I'm going to say that was a short circuit, fired both of them at the same time. He was only supposed to fire one. Well, I suppose it's possible he could salvo them, but they're marking rockets. There would be no reason to do that. So we're going to go with a short circuit. Some folks have pointed out that this artwork of the aircraft carrier, the USS Ranger, and I believe this is by Steele, and it was the jet that's on approach is coming in from the wrong side. It should be a left turn in. But I'm going to say that this guy launched off the carrier and then had emergency, and he's trying to make it back to the ship as quick as he can, and that just happened to be a right turn. So this is a Mayday return, and the fellow that's touching down is either going to bolter, or the fellow on short approach here is going to have to eject or try and go around again. But this is an emergency. That's why he's making a right turn back for the ship. I'm going with it. This next one of the Coast Guard cutter shows this thing cutting a wake through an ice field, which I don't think any cutter would do. But what no one knows is that that's actually styrofoam ice, and this is all being shot for a movie. That's the story I'm going with. And here we have two things that never flew together, the Baka and the V1, but I'm going to say in this one that the Japanese got their hands on a couple of V1s that the Germans had sent to them, and they're using the Baka as a command aircraft to try and steer it. Sounds like fun to me. Yeah, that works. Here we have one that, I'm sorry, you're just not retconning this. That's a Korean War era paint job Corsair and a World War II SBD. So unless somebody jumped through a time portal, yeah, no, it'd have to be an air show. There you go. It's an air show routine, complete with live flak. Here we have a World War II destroyer, and it doesn't even say what class it is, just World War II destroyer. You assume it's American. And the enemy, clearly it's fighting, judging by the splashes all around it, clearly it's fighting stormtroopers from the Imperial Galactic Empire. I don't know if anybody noticed, because I built this Convair a couple of times, and I don't know if anybody noticed. I don't even think I noticed at the time, but those are MiGs swarming around it. So yeah, somebody's guilty of gross navigational error. Yeah, he's going to be creating an international incident. Then we have the F-105s dropping bombs in Afterburner. So clearly they're doing an air show. That's what they're doing. They're coming in low. We're looking up at them against the clouds. They light the burner and drop the bombs just to be cool. I'm trying to sell the F-105. Then we have another F-105 where one is taking off and the other already wheels up climbing out. So I'm going to say this guy took the runway. There was some air traffic control confusion. He cut the other guy off, so that's actually a go-around. Here we have the Cobra that apparently has the ability to fire rockets pretty much through its own rotor arc. But that's okay because the downwash in the rotor will keep them clear. Sure, run with it. Here we have the M41 Walker Bulldog in the middle of a firefight, apparently fighting communist forces to capture a Russian MiG-21. So apparently a Russian pilot tried to defect, made it across the border somewhere where the U.S. troops crash-landed the plane, and now they're fighting off the godless commies who are trying to reclaim or to destroy it. This other M41 Walker Bulldog that we talked about before, which is actually an M60A1, is clearly a deception technique. They got the model company to put the wrong tank on the box art because they knew that lazy Russian spies get all their information from buying kit models. So they thought this would fool the Ruskies. And here we have this beautiful Pacific Island, which is supposed to be World War II because it says World War II fighter, except that he's wearing post-World War II Korean War era markings because, again, time portal. Here we have the dune buggy version of the Saladin because why not? And finally, we have two UH-1s that look like they're about to crash into each other. What you can't tell is that they're actually both hovering. Yeah, that's what they've got to be hovering. Otherwise, we got a mid-air in the making. Well, so much for my little amateur retcons. I am sure we have all seen a box art of a kit that we loved or a subject matter that we loved, and we knew the box art was wrong, and in our minds, we just came up with some way to try and fix it. So, whatever helps you sleep at night. Hey, remember, it's all in good fun. Well, guys, that's all we got for tonight. Hopefully they're going to drop the Tarbis tomorrow. I've been calling them, but hadn't heard back. So if they show, they show. We got extremely busy, a lot going on, but still trying to crank out a little content. Sadly, no time to build at the moment. Guys, take care of yourselves. Hope you're having a great holiday season. And as always, model on.